welcome to another Bloodthirsty Salamander experience, a podcast where a couple of friends get together to talk about relationships, politics, the struggles and successes of life. Maybe we'll add in a little sports, maybe some aliens, but all the while we'll be discussing it from an everyday person's perspective. My name is Justin, and I'm here with my co-host Steven, and soon to announce our special guest. So Steven, first, what are you drinking this evening?
Well, I'm having one of my personal favorites. It's a brewing company called Lexington, and this is their Kentucky Vanilla Bean Barrel Cream Ale, and it's very good. How about yourself, Justin?
I'm going a little hard in the paint with tomorrow off for Thanksgiving. I got Hamilton's Scotland whiskey. It's literally from the Isles of some tiny island with only about 3,000 inhabitants. Most of their income or economy is based around this distillery and tourism. So add that to a coffee, having a pretty good evening.
Yeah, that actually sounds really good. And a very interesting backstory to that one.
I mean, the 20-minute long line I had to stand in to order it or to buy it for Thanksgiving line, I had enough time to read every word on the label.
Yeah, it's kind of funny. Everybody's family's coming in, so it's like, oh, time to stock up on the liquor.
Oh, you need it. But yeah, well, let's get into our special guest tonight. Is going to be Brian. He's another friend that we had met, 20 years ago, which is a funny conundrum of how my first memory of you, Steven, is linked with that, where you guys had that funny altercation at a soccer practice, and you broke your hand in that altercation, and that was my first true memory of you, and that was a little bit before the high school wild. But on the part about Brian here, he is a gentleman who is a general manager of Cannected Dispensary there in Sapulpa, has a wife, 3 kids. He's currently experiencing the wild ride in the cannabis industry and how it's, evolving through the different stages in Oklahoma to hopefully work its way into a recreational sort of thing without as much legal oversight. So Brian, I know you've definitely not been drinking for 2 years this Christmas. What are you enjoying this evening?
Oh man, I've got a couple different things to choose from. I started off with a regular pre-roll right now by a company called Mad Scientist. It was a Lilac Diesel is the strain on it. There's another one to back it up here called a Goodfellows. It's another pre-rolled joint. Man, it's all kinds of layered on the outside. It's what they call an infused pre-roll. So it's going to be and you were talking about going a little heavy on your drink. That'll be my heavy.
Gee, what does that mean with all the layers?
Oh well, so different producers, processors do it all different ways. So you got your basic pre-roll, which is the industry's version of a joint. We all remember rolling a joint, and so they just made a cone, made a tip, called it a pre-roll, and the industry loves it. So why not infuse them? Why not wrap them in other stuff? So I know me and Steven were talking a little bit about concentrates, just thinking about the differences in smoking just flower, just concentrates. They combine all these things in a lot of these pre-rolls as far as covering them on the outside with that waxy concentrate substance, and then even coating that in keef, which I think everybody, if they're a pothead, kind of knows keef is that nice dressing that manifests at the bottom of your grinder. All that tiny little dust off your bud as you grind it up.
Sunday special.
You save that for a bowl topper. Oh man! So they put that all over the outside. So you get these 2-gram pre-rolled blunts, joints that are all kinds of infused. By the time you're done, you're at 80% THC and taking a nap.
Good God.
That sounds like a really good time.
Right, I would be knocked out.
Brian, before we get going a little bit too farther in this, let's jump back to something Justin had mentioned earlier. And one of his first memories of me that were related to you, a little scuffle at soccer practice, which left me with a broken hand off of your, I believe, right cheekbone.
Well, my thick head somewhere. I think I turned just in time. Yeah, you caught a bone somewhere.
Yeah, and who would have thought that would have ended up down the road and probably my best friendship throughout high school, for sure.
Oh man, it's always awesome how things manifest, how they work out. I remember all of it pretty much like it was yesterday. As far as the soccer practice, it was a picture day, and then even the friends that we had chosen all at the time, the anxiety, the bullying of each other, and then just the biggest part was like the next day you showing up to school a little late and with a cast on your arm, and people going, "Man, what happened? What happened?" You're like, "I hit him," and you point at me in the classroom, and it's like,
Yeah, I remember that too. I believe that was Miss Daly's English class. And it's funny you talk about the memory because I remember that too. You're right. It was at picture days, and I don't really remember our relationship on that soccer team before that, but I know that you were kind of messing with two of the kids I was hanging out, which I believe one was a kid named Lance, and the other one was a kid named Daniel Potter. And it's funny that you remember those little things about that as well.
oh man, yeah, you were just being a good bro.
On to something very interesting, but definitely is the topic of today of how you got into where you're at and the journey to get there. So, like, really, what prompted you to get out of selling RVs? I know your history as being an electrician. Like, it's such a wild jump to go from electrician to dispensary GM.
Man, I've been jumping all over the place. So the industry started, catching on with the pass of 788, I think, around 2018. And, everything just hit hot. You could almost throw a dispensary out anywhere and make money, throw a grow up, sell weed at, $3,000 a pound or something. And to show you the difference in the market now, like $1,400, is like a good price per pound. Everybody made a bunch of quick money. I decided I was doing electrical work. I was doing some industrial work in a paper mill, and I just had the free time in this job that I had working these long shifts with my hands, just kind of in my pockets sometimes, just watching machines run, and decided through conversations with other people, I wanted to see what growing was, and I wanted to just jump into it. It started becoming legal, and like everybody who's ever smoked cannabis wants to jump into it, so I did the same thing. I was like, well, hell yeah, I want to learn all I can and make money off of this. And I guess to cliff notes it a little bit, I jumped into a trade organization. That brought me into a grow. That brought me into another grow. I know Justin got to visit a couple of these establishments. I worked at a processors in Owasso. I even started doing sales for a rosin concentrate company processor, and through the course of doing sales for them, purchased the company, and then moved it around a bit. And just like everything else, the industry is just, if you don't have the backing, if you don't have the social media presence, you can't do a lot with a handful, $4,000-$5,000 in a dream when you're competing against some big names, some big money. So I let the other people that know what they're doing and have the right equipment to do it figure it out. And I just went to educating people and trying to show people and tell people and explain to people what it all is, what the difference of it is. It kind of drove me into a consulting role, and that's where I kind of ended up at the dispensary, consulting. And then they hired me in full time as a partner to develop the dispensary and a co-op around the dispensary to help other cannabis businesses. So there's the short story.
The co-op you're talking about, which I understand co-ops through farming, some other people I've talked to in the industry, they actually have a co-op as well. And it seems like you were talking about the way the market is, that having a co-op is almost necessary to kind of survive in the market.
Yeah, absolutely. It's interesting to find the differences in people. They got brokers, they got consultants that call themselves brokers and brokers that call themselves co-ops. And it's hard to distinguish who's an actual buying force as a co-op and who's pulling, mom and pop businesses together and trying to give them a leg up and, getting buying power pulled together. And then there's the broker who claims to be doing all these things, and really just he goes from dispo to dispo like a vacuum salesman with 6 products under his belt, and you kind of get tired of seeing these people over and over and over again. And so the co-op will definitely be necessary to wash out that framework and hopefully polish it up, because people still walk in through the door and expect a manager to have time. It's not like they need vendor training or something. You're not just going to walk into an establishment in the middle of the day. Like, let's say you're actually selling like a pharmaceutical rep walking into a hospital to sell like an MRI machine. Are you just going to show up, talk to the nurse at the desk, and see if the doctor's in?
No, that definitely sounds like something you would have a scheduled meeting for, so that you could have the time and the right people there.
So yeah, that's exactly my point. A lot of these vendors, brokers, they come in through the door, say, "Hey, I got my products with me. As your purchasing manager, I'd like some of his time." And when they say, "No, he's not available," it's almost like they get butthurt about it. Like, what do you mean? I got out of my car and walked through the door and everything, and I'm right here. And bro, like, call ahead or something, anything. So we set up a protocol for, here's a sheet of paper, fill this out, email us, we'll get you on the schedule to see what you have. But there's, I don't know, 2,700 dispensaries. There's around 6,000 processors. I think there's more growers than that.
Yeah, and what it sounds like to me, you're trying to help build a business structure around something that really isn't, or the people are not that structured of people, or not necessarily that business minded.
Oh man, yeah. Yeah, you get fly-by-night vendors and dispensary owners. So when I did this on the other side of it, I was a sales rep. I was selling concentrates, and I was trying to do the same thing, but trying to do it a little bit differently, I guess. Call ahead, when I was in the area. Hey, do you have time right now? If not, that's cool. The industry just needs to grow up a little bit. 21 dispensaries in Sapulpa alone, with a population somewhere around 15,000 or something like that. It's like Owasso meets Claremore. It's not that big. So it's just a drowned out market. There's 2 liquor stores in the town. So consider that.
Yeah, that's pretty crazy.
How many dispensaries were in the town?
There's like 21 approved licenses in the town of Sapulpa.
With 2 liquor stores. Very interesting.
Saturation in the market, and at some point, that you get these pushbacks from the actual industry saying, well, you approved his license, why not mine? It's medicine. But if I was a city planner, at some point you would stop. It's not about putting a cap on the licenses or saying we can't open up anymore.
Well, yeah, the city's not going to let 10 McDonald's come in.
Exactly. You have to look at this rational. We've tried to grassroots this thing all the way up from its inception, from writing the bills, and we've done nothing but try to fix it with emergency rules. And if you follow any of these would-be cannabis lawyers on Facebook, they've got all their updates to the emergency rulings and all the problems that's saturating the industry here. And it'll be another 3 years before it all evens out.
Yeah. Do you think some of that was due to maybe rushing the original bill?
To some degree, because the actual policymakers didn't understand what they were reviewing. And so the people that wrote the bill weren't necessarily trying to write it on a policy level. They wrote things in there like you can smoke a joint, or you can smoke cannabis anywhere you can smoke a cigarette. It's kind of, you're in a medical state and you're telling me I can walk down Riverside with a joint in my lips it's a difficult to get from medical to recreational. So with that in mind, it's illegal for me to share my joint with you because it's medicine. It's like sharing prescription drugs. So I can't be puffing on my joint and then pass it to you. If I got a cop that was actually wanting to press it, like, you could get arrested for sharing medication.
Yeah, there definitely is a very fine line there.
Never happens. Just got to work out. I joked with somebody the other day. I said, you remember those old laws that you hear on the books, like in Alabama, where it's like you can't keep an alligator and a Bible in the backseat? So it's going to be like that in a couple of years. People are like, did you know it used to be a federal crime to pass a joint in Oklahoma? Like, it'll be funny, but...
That is funny. Actually, some stuff that I didn't actually know.
Yeah, no, you're quite knowledgeable in it because, that was a really good question about the rushing. I didn't even know that it was rushed. I always thought it was, delayed for some reason because we didn't get enough votes. So I would have thought it was well thought out and a plan. But as you described, smoking a joint the same as cigarettes and thinking about it as medicine throws off that weird vibe of recreational before it's even accepted as a medicine.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's difficult to think about all these events and all these public events, cannabis events, that they've got dab bars. And if you don't know what dabbing is, it's the concentrates. It's superheating a banger to smoke cannabis concentrates, a wax, a sugar, a dab. Anyways, you've got dab bars across Oklahoma for all these events, for promotions. I don't understand how somebody can legally walk up to your table and smoke something that you have at the table when they have to bring their own medication to the table. Yes, they can use your device, technically. It's a weird gray space to be in. And it's like the last 2 years of being in this industry has just been doing just that, just developing some sort of knowledge behind all the changes and just trying to be on top of it. But as you can hear, it just constantly changes.
Yeah, that definitely... I remember a lot of the pushback with this bill was because it really didn't draw a line like some other states, like Colorado and California,
right,
and making it more of a medical bill. And I remember a lot of the argument was that it was more or less being wrote as a recreational bill, labeled a medical bill.
No, I mean, just to think about, the doctors don't need any reasons, actually. Like, go get your medical card. They say, why are you getting your medical card? Oh, I get migraines. All right, cool. They put that down on your chart, like you'd see the regular doctor to go get Xanax or something. Preconditions is the term. And you actually, in Oklahoma, they wrote the medical bill not needing any preconditions. So the doctor really doesn't even need a reason to write it. You just go in there and put down his fee of whatever, $75, $100, and he's just putting down preconditions on there to cover his own ass. But at this point, it really is written like a recreational state, with this medical facade.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And so kind of what you're almost saying is the doctor is more or less like where you go to get your driver's license.
That's spot on, even though they put all these preconditions on there so that way they cover their own butt. But even as an MJ doctor, just to write these recommendations, they can't prescribe anything at all. They cannot recommend a cannabis substance, anything. Like, it's so you're going to your doctor's office, paying them $100 to sign off on this form that you're going to send off to the state so you can legally buy cannabis in your state, and then you're going to look at that doctor and say, okay, great, what do I use for anxiety? And he can't legally give you advice.
That's pretty insane. That'd be like going to your doctor, hey, I'm having pains and stuff, and like, well, I don't really have any information on any of the pain medicines, and I can't really describe you anything.
Like, yeah, good luck. What is the joke between like a security guard and a security officer? Like, somebody's just going to watch. Somebody's actually going to do something. I don't even know how to explain it. It's got a lot of polishing out to do. Even in the last bill that they came out with for some emergency rulings, the growers and the dispensaries can now roll their own pre-rolls or fill their own pre-rolls. They're not rolling anything, but you're filling these cones, and dispensaries and grows can do it all by themselves now without the need of a processor to play that middleman to go send your flower material off to and have it processed into a pre-roll. If you've got dispensary, you can set up a room in the back and get a machine and pack your own pre-rolls now, and further muddies the water, really, in my opinion. It's just more to add to it. I think the reason I was bringing that up is because then the emergency ruling also stated that a 1 gram pre-roll included the filter and the paper, the tip and the paper, which is about 1.15 grams. So everybody in the industry buys a 1 gram pre-roll. That you're buying the flour. I'm buying 1 gram of flour, and so then this ruling said, oh yeah, you can sell 1 gram flowers, but it can really only be 3/4 gram flour because we're including the paper weight. And it just goes to show that people that are these policies do not understand cannabis, and they're not around cannabis, and they don't understand the industry. So you got somebody who's biologist or a frog scientist or something, he's in here trying to write cannabis law. That's not really what they're doing, but
So what you're saying is it's just like everything else in government.
Yeah, bureaucracy. So like even after they came out with it, like 2 days later, through everybody's stink on social media, they took it back and they're like, all right, well, we changed it to include 1 gram of flour and not include the paper and the tip. And it's like, so who do you guys need to hire in your office to start getting some of this straight? Because right now, it's just like they're throwing stuff at the wall, and then they get feedback from people's Instagram videos.
Yeah, it sounds like they should hire you, and they just be like, okay, here's what we want to do. Read this and fix everything that needs fixed, and then we'll sign it.
They need an unbiased person somewhere in the industry to be talking about a lot of this, to be going to meetings. And you've got politicians with agendas. You've got, some of these dispensary owners, processors, they have a lot riding on this industry because they have gone and sourced other good brands around the country, from California to Colorado, and they licensed them in this state, went through an Oklahoma processor, and they developed things like Mary's Medicinals, which is a THC patch, and they sell them in California, Colorado, Oregon. They're nationwide. They're a reputable product, and so these people have bought the rights to produce that product in Oklahoma, and so they've done that with numerous products, and so there's lots of money, lots of stuff riding on this industry.
Do you think you'll have a lot of outside sources coming in as the years progress?
I think eventually it almost has to open up. I liked Oklahoma's original grasp of grassroots Oklahoma, like let's keep it Oklahoma, keep it local. So consider wine, man, like wine or even cattle. Any industry, you're growing tomatoes, whatever. You're growing grapes in a certain area, a certain region of the world or the country that is adopted well to receive that plant. You're growing it in that environment. And so we've taken strains that grow well in California, that grow well in these areas that have traditionally grown cannabis well, and they don't grow as well here. We're not getting the same THC quantities and stuff here, and so it's number one, we have to adapt that, grow our own type of stuff, find new phenotypes, new types of strains. But beyond that, my point of that is eventually I think a federal legalization of everybody who has wine is generally up in like Northern California, or eventually it'll be like that for cannabis, where one region or main regions will grow cannabis and will supply the whole country, is my belief, instead of, oh, it's in Oklahoma, it has to come from Oklahoma. Well, you're kind of cutting out an entire country of really good stuff, saying that only this good stuff can come from Oklahoma, when you've got these brilliant minds across the country who, number one, California and Colorado have been doing this medical direct. You've got processors and growers who have been polishing their techniques, and then you're going to say that, oh, we're in it 2.5 years and Oklahoma has it better, that we can do it better. Like, stay fam. Like, maybe take some help from the industry. Like,
no, I think that's a really good point. Why wouldn't you want, basically is, it's not in a lot of states first off, but why wouldn't you be extending your hand, essentially asking for that help as well?
Exactly. It's nice to have the Oklahoma vibe and like support local, but if you're buying a medicine that isn't doing good for you because it's a generic version, and then honestly the Xanax does the right thing for you, then you're not going to keep buying the one that doesn't work. At some point, between 8,000 growers licenses in the state, not everybody can be a reputable grower. $2,500 in a dream is all it really takes to get your license started with OMA. $2,500, get your OMA license going, and then you want some other investment money to get your Oklahoma Bureau of Narcotics license, your city compliance stuff. So you want like 10 grand in your pocket, but anybody who had $4 or $5 grand in their pocket and likes pot said, I can grow, and now they're trying to sell their weed to dispensaries everywhere, thinking that it's the best thing that anybody's ever seen, and it's just naive of Oklahoma, really. It's just naive.
It sounds like a lot of like strong personalities. You're like, no, Oklahoma only. And it's like, no, you guys got to open up and really try to not be so selfishly prideful, I feel like. Because when we were doing some of the marketing and trying to get clients on it, it was always me, and mine. And it's like, you guys just started out of nothing. Like, where's your business acumen? Have you owned another business? Have you farmed? Have you even grown a tomato plant to then go into growing it? And they didn't want to take any advice at all. They always thought they were definitely the ones who knew everything.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you, Brian, you had brought up that people, they got their agendas, and we've never really talked about this in depth like we have, or at least me and you, on this subject like we have. And I will say I'm pleasantly surprised on how neutral and knowledgeable and like just about what's best for the industry and what makes sense that you are, because a lot of times you meet people and they just want weed to be legal. They have their agenda and they don't really care how you get to point A to point B to point C. They don't care about that because they just want the weed. And I think it's really impressive that you have a really good view of this industry and that you see where it needs to go and you see the changes. It's not about whether or not having it to you, it's about having it and having it the right way.
No, absolutely. I appreciate that. There's just too many people out there that they want to push it for their reason, and I think that's, without going way off kilter, I think that's a problem we have just as a country as a whole. Is this is my truth versus truth is truth, and we've altered what truth is, and we've altered manipulation, we've altered agendas, and it's a mess in this industry. It's a mess across the rest of the world. We've got ourselves into a problem when it comes to the truth, in all honesty.
I don't think you could have said that better, because me and Justin even talked about on our first podcast was, everybody is so like polarized that they can't hear the other side. They can't talk to the other side. It's their way or no way. And I agree with you. I think that's a big problem that is going on in this country right now.
That's originally where I kind of was trying to put my foot in this industry. I thought maybe in the juvenile steps of this industry, it looked like being a broker was going to be a good thing. Like, oh, wow, there's so many different products. How about instead of dealing with 20 vendors knocking on your door as a a vacuum salesman, what if just I came and showed up and I have so many products with me, and it's still not cute. Like it still wasn't going to adapt well. And so like really trying to find that place where you can help those people, or be in a position to not always just be in it for yourself. I had a vendor come to me this last week. She's a real sweet woman. She tries almost too hard for every company she's worked for. I've known her through two concentrate companies, and it's dog eat dog out there. Like, you can't catch a break. Purchasing managers don't have time for you as a vendor. People, they're suspicious of everything, suspicious of everybody when they come through my door. Like, all right, where are you from? What do you mean you got a deal? Like, yeah, there's no trust in it at all. It has to, as much as we need less regulation, where we have regulation, we need it fixed. So,
Yeah, and do you feel that the outside world is having a different perception versus the reality of the industry?
I was thinking of that the other day because I was thinking about people's buying patterns, consumer side of things sometimes, and I don't think the industry looks as bad as it is. I think it's kind of working through the normal kinks. I believe there's a lot of people that make these thinks about it, and they really try to press that there's bigger problems that there are. But yeah, there's some issues when it comes to the sale system that was regulate, from seed all the way to sale of flower at the dispensary through, okay, it goes to this processor. And the state decided they didn't like it. The state decided it was like monopolizing what they were doing, and it was causing too many extra steps. From the inside, it looks like a mess. From the consumer side, man, we got dab bars, we got pot events, we got cannabis concerts, we got 420. You got to kind of look at it through the right filters too. That it's really not as bad as it seems, because really we're going through the similar paces as other states did.
Do you, like, in your research and experience with it, have you been looking into what Colorado and how they transitioned and how that is what we're doing, or is Oklahoma doing? Do you see any similarities?
I For a while I was really concentrating on that a lot more. I got caught up in more of the products and how the products are just not necessarily displayed, but I guess how they're produced, how they're brought to the dispensaries. Right now we're a big bulk flower type of consumer for a state. You go in, you buy an eighth, they weigh it out for you. It goes in a disposable plastic, medical dram. But these other states like California and Colorado, you get there and everything is prepackaged, and it's done in a way that's a good way. But it's done in a quality standard kind of a way, and Oklahoma doesn't see it as a quality standard kind of a way yet. They think, oh, it's prepackaged weed, and I can't see what it looks like, and so I'm buying something that I can't see, and I'm gonna spend $50 on this eighth of weed, and I don't even know what it smells like. And so, I mean, I kind of agree with them, but at the same time, go to California, and that's where it trends over to that. For the grower, it's easier to prepackage all the stuff and have it in eighths and have it in halves and have it in quarters and have your name on it. Otherwise, yeah, it might be easier to sell it as a pound to the dispensary, but you're an unlabeled bottle. Like, imagine being an unlabeled wine bottle in a liquor store. Okay, it's red wine, and you have no bearing on, okay, where they were grown, how they're produced, all those little adjectives they use to describe the Merlot or whatever, the sweet, citrusy, this, that, and the other. That's the same thing with all the strains. Like, you're missing the whole point if you're an unlabeled. So that's what these other states have figured out. Like, okay, so if I'm going to be Best Buds Cannabis, then all right, I'm going to make sure that all my stuff is prepackaged and it goes on the shelf as Best Buds Cannabis, and you produce a brand and a name and notoriety instead of just an unlabeled jar on the shelf. People are buying the strain. Hey, I want Granddaddy Perp. Hey, I want, Candy Kush or whatever. But they have no idea it was grown by Hypnotic Farms, or that it was grown by pollination cultivation, or it's got to be hard to be a grower, in all honesty.
No, that's a really good point, because, I mean, you can't weed out the bad growers from the good growers and let the good growers come up and the other ones just fade out. Because you take a look at it like, like wine, like you're talking about. People have favorite at wineries. People, they will buy specifically from a certain winery that they like.
Beers, artesian beers, craft
yeah,
beers.
Exactly, craft beers. But you said you don't know where you're getting any of this from. You can't be like, hey, I want your Hypnotic Farm stuff, because they don't label it like that.
Yeah, right now it falls on the actual dispensary or the bud tender the purchasing manager to be buying things appropriately. Right now, Oklahoma has done its traditional straight to the bottom. Okay, like, you got shops everywhere buying cheap ass crap weed everywhere, and so they can make their margins and sell. I mean, everybody, to me, you want fluff weed, you want nice, pretty buds, and half the dispensaries in Oklahoma sell shake. They sell ounces of shake. They sell the cheap $5 grams of stuff. It's amazing that we went straight to the bottom so quickly.
I think that goes back to what you're talking about, not having the right regulations.
No, absolutely.
I got an interesting question. What is your favorite way? I don't even know if the word ingest, like how to use cannabis. How would you say that question? I consume cannabis.
Yeah, consume would be probably the best. So I've taken a journey through all of them. When I get a good edible that does what it's supposed to do, I really enjoy the edible high, like this full body. It kind of produces in your shoulders, wraps into the back of your head. You get this whole kind of euphoric, energetic, relaxed. It's all there. You get the full experience. It's a little bit more. It's more difficult to get that, at least for me, from flower. I like smoking flower a lot. It's one of everybody's favorite way to consume cannabis. But I guess concentrates is my favorite, though.
Yeah, that is too much for me. I'm sure you know. I just like to keep it flower and edible.
Yeah, and even the edibles for me sometimes, like that's a very tricky deal. Like you can mess that up real bad.
God, yeah, I remember before it was a thing, I got this one Lego piece. I ate half of the Lego piece, which doesn't sound like a lot. I was wrecked for like 2 days. Like 45 minutes later, I was just down for the count as if I had drinking way too much. I was throwing up. And you can't do anything. Like throwing up doesn't help. It just makes your breath smell disgusting. And then you're just gross as you pass out weirdly, where you have to have a foot on the ground. It was too much. It was, God, way too much.
Was that photo shoot?
No, I was back in Florida. I was living with one guy. He had got this Lego piece, and he was like, hey, we're potheads. My girlfriend's not. She's going to eat half this Lego. I've already had 2. How about you have the other half? I was like, oh, yeah, sure. Why not? And then that one was so bad. Like, I felt like I was roofied in a club or something. It was a lot.
That photo shoot was RSO, wasn't it?
Yeah. Oh, God.
I want to preface this story by saying that this was before I worked at my current job, and I don't do any of this stuff anymore because of that job. But when Oklahoma, first started all this stuff, and they started putting out their bars and stuff, they weren't very labeled very well. I mean, it was just like, oh, this bar is 80 grams, and here's this whole bar, and it's not sectioned up or nothing. But like the stuff I was used to getting was from Colorado, and I mean it's labeled out to a T how much each little piece is and all that stuff. And so one night I get this bar out and I start eating on it and eat a little bit, don't feel nothing, so I eat a little bit more, and don't really feel nothing. I eat a little bit more, and I'm like, man, this thing really ain't doing nothing. And I was like, I gotta work in the morning. I'm done. I'm just gonna stop here. And I was like, this thing was disappointing. And man, when I woke up at 6 the next morning, I've never been so high in my life. It was just like that thing was on pause until I woke up. And as soon as I woke up, I was slammed and I had to go wheelbarrow concrete. And that was one of the toughest mornings of my life. And my cousin was laughing the whole time. And my uncle,
where's it, Mike?
It was Evan. It was Evan. And he was just laughing at me the whole time. I mean, I couldn't even have a conversation. And somehow I didn't turn over a wheelbarrow of concrete. And he was just laughing at me the whole time. And his dad was like, is he hungover? And he was like, yeah, you could say that. Yeah, edibles, if not done properly, could go awry for sure.
Yeah, that's a rookie mistake to keep going for and be like, oh, it didn't hit me. That's funny. Everybody's got the story, the brownie story. The hey man, like that brownie did me wrong. You know, the little memes or whatever on Facebook. You know, pick the brown. Really, so there's a few scientific reasons. There's a few things we can talk about around this edible experience of number one, when you're mixing in whatever material into the brownie or into the edible. If it's not a professional edible, if you're making it at home, it's hard to get an even amount across the whole thing, no matter how much you think you're mixing it. So this piece is going to have more THC in it than this one, and so that's problem number one with making your own, unless you buy a distillate or buy something else to mix in there that's not like just pouring bud in there. Anyways, the digestion part of that, when you're talking about getting hit in the morning with it, man, that was my very first brownie, my very first edible story, 15 years ago plus probably, where me and some compadres, we stayed up, we made brownies, we ate pizza, we played video games, and then when the brownies were done, we ate those, and they sat on top of that pizza. They didn't get digested. So your body has all kinds of other stuff going on, and so we smoked and we had a good night, and the same as you, man. Like, I woke up out of it, like, for the whole day I didn't know where I was at. It felt like a Tommy Chong, yeah. But yeah, it's that your body didn't get the chance to digest it at all in the moment, and it already takes 45 minutes to affect you on a digestion level. So you just, oh yeah.
Yeah, it was definitely a rookie mistake, and it was yeah. Yeah, and I think you're exactly right on that digestion thing. It just sit there not having that chance to really process until I woke up and started moving again.
Oh, buddy, yeah. And your body actually changes the components, the cannabinoid components of THC, the delta 9, the tetra. I can't say the scientific words, but it actually changes in chemistry when it gets processed through the liver to a whole other component, and then it's actually a heavier component, so you get higher from eating edibles. Like, it's scientifically proven.
Is that the same as the Delta 8? Because down here in Texas, there's a thing going that we can still buy Delta 8 from like little CBD shops, but they're trying to make it where you can't. And, I've thought about exploring that just because it'll give me a head change.
Delta 8 is supposed to be, like you're saying, kind of give you a little bit of a head change. It's not supposed to be psychoactive, but it's supposed to be euphoric, I guess, are the two differences they try to explain.
No, is it like a body euphoria?
Yeah.
Mind euphoria?
I haven't taken any yet, but they're working on putting restraints on Delta 8. They haven't yet, but there's so many components and compounds in cannabis, it's hard to keep up, So yeah, Delta 8, Delta 9, there are two cannabinoids in cannabis, but I was looking for the actual definition. What is it? 11-hydroxy THC, I guess, is maybe the more technical term for what, once the Delta 9 gets processed in the liver, it turns to 11-hydroxy THC, and it's more psychoactive. It's more sedative, and so it's completely different than Delta 8. Delta 8 is unregulated right now. It's like CBD. They put it all over the place because they say it's not psychoactive, but it is a euphoric feeling, supposedly. I have not tried it yet.
Interesting. We might go find one if they're still open pre-Thanksgiving.
Moving off of the weed topic a little bit, I was going to ask you, you have 3 kids, right? And how old are they now?
Man, the oldest, Sophia, she'll be turning 11 on Black Friday. So here in a couple days. Otherwise, they're...
Party.
Man, yeah, party hardy. They're 8, 9, and 11. My boy's the straggler. He's 8. He's a tank. He weighs more than the other two, I think, combined.
Probably. He is a big boy.
That's crazy, man. I remember when Sophia was born, and time flies.
Yeah, she was a shrimp too when she was born. So yeah, I got 2 petite little girls, and then Sterling is his soccer skills are exploding. They've got him in the goal. He's a ringer on their team. They got first place this last go around, and it was partially due to Sterling's in the goal, man. Like the boy's fucking fearless.
Oh, that's awesome.
I didn't mean to.
All right, you can cuss.
Awesome.
We are R-rated.
Oh, yeah, we're no PG here.
Then, yeah, our first episode, we used some even more non-PC terms.
Yes, we did. Because we were made aware of that, too.
Nice. No, yeah, they're kids, man. I actually, I guess I keep them pretty aware of what's around them, so they do understand what the industry's or they do know what marijuana is. My daughter was even joking they were on the school bus counting dispensaries on the way to school.
Oh my goodness.
That's pretty funny.
It just goes back to like there's more of them than liquor stores, and the perception of the weed cannabis is more negative than being drunk next to your kids.
Yeah, I mean, and that's the weird thing is that you've got such a negative vibe on cannabis from a certain vantage point, but realistically, like it's loosening up so much that it'll be curious to see what really happens, what certain strongholds. There's church groups and stuff. They put certain strongholds out there. I'm like, I am not going to budge on cannabis, or I'm not going to budge on whatever. So I mean, I'm not judging anybody for anything. I see plenty of people that come into our shop that they're there to educate. They're there to find something that works for pain in their back, for insomnia. I have lots of different water soluble products. I have things that we can talk about that are not weed necessarily that really do help people. And then there's everybody else that just wants to get high, and why not? It's just like with your at the end of the day, like I would in my position I enjoy smoking a little bit at the end of the day because I mean I obviously don't drink, so
yeah, because that's the big like consume cannabis afterwards, but everybody drug tests and does all this extra stuff because of the negative perception. But let's go get super drunk and make bad decisions. Unfortunately, like people lose their lives with that sort of like process there. And with the cannabis side of things, it's like, well, what are we missing? Like nobody's truthfully getting high and driving off a cliff or running into oncoming traffic, because it doesn't give you that liquid courage.
Brian, how much would you say that the pharmaceutical industry affects the legalization of marijuana?
I mean, I'm sure they've got plenty of hands blocking it. I'm sure trying to get the sad part is pharmaceuticals and cannabis can play hand in hand. They actually work symbiotically. If you've got somebody taking a high dose of opioids to help with their back, because they really sick veteran that broke their back covering a damn bomb, I mean, like you've got people that are hurt out there, and they're not just people that are just, I'm addicted to opioids. Like these people, they take them for a reason. Cannabis can cut down the amount of opioids that are needed to make the same effect. They work together. And so to break the stigma of most doctors won't prescribe you your pain medicine anymore if you test positive for cannabis, or you say, I'm going to go get my medical card, I'm going to choose cannabis. A person strictly has to choose between their pain meds and their cannabis, and really they should be able to figure out a wonderful balance between the two of them. Instead of it being like you can't do this without that one, like they work together. It's amazing. The receptors open up. There's so much research behind it that you can drop your opioid dosage by like a third and get the same effect, which helps your body, helps your liver, helps everything, because your body is breaking apart over processing this pharmaceutical.
Which you would think, with what you've said and what we know about how addictive and destructive opioids are, that people would be jumping through hoops to make that happen.
Yeah, you'd think. So, I mean, there's got to be blocks against it. These people that make these big name pharmaceuticals, they've got agendas. There's again that I'm not wholeheartedly against pharmaceutical industry. Like it's there for a reason. We've developed it for a purpose. I still take if I get a migraine, I'll still take a Motrin, or Pain-Aid is my favorite. I guess I get it Quick Trip or whatever. There's two promo props for you: Pain-Aid and Quick Trip.
We'll work toward those sponsors.
Yeah, name dropping.
As long as they're not upset and PC with some other shenanigans, but one thing at a time.
But it'd be nice to see it kind of open up. We at our shop, we actually have a nurse that I had from other areas of the industry. She's gotten into cannabis. She does holistic medicine, and she gets you into her program as a client. And this is for, geriatric patients. This is for somebody who, like, for example, we had a lady come in and say, hey, I'm going off my diabetes medication and I'm just switching over to cannabis. And we're like, whoa, we can't, no, don't, we're not recommending that. Like, who sent you in here? Like, so we got a hold of this cannabis nurse. Her name is Nurse Brooks, Jennifer Brooks, the practical nurse. If you go look her up, she's awesome. And she will sit with a patient and then go and sit with their physician. And so that way she can work with your chart. You can work with the medications, the blood pressure medications that they're taking, the diabetes medications that these people are taking, because cannabis does affect all of them, to a certain degree. So to have somebody to walk through some of those decisions with you is an important next step on the medical side of it.
Oh, no, that is excellent.
That's a very good point. I've heard stories, I don't know how true or not true they are, of people actually coming off of their diabetes medicine with marijuana. I don't know how completely accurate that is, but I had wondered about that because I have heard that before.
I mean, I wouldn't put it past it. I mean, the system that backs this cannabis use altogether is the endocannabinoid system. And it works kind of just like everything else in your body. The nervous system, it regulates all these other systems too, though. So, the opioids tap into your nervous system. They break into other receptors. So your endocannabinoid system has endocannabinoids and receptors that endocannabinoids that your body is making all inside, all on its own, with no outside help whatsoever. So cannabis, weed, is a phytocannabinoid. And it just interacts with the same receptors, like an opioid interacts with your nervous system in a different way. So in a way, we're figuring out a way to create balance in our bodies using this system that it's there, just like your nervous system. We for some reason, it's hard for people to break this stigma and believe in it for some reason. Like, really, you can't believe in something we've scientifically proven is there? Like, just because it comes, it's wrapped around the use of cannabis means that it's not real. Well, it's there, number one, and no, it does not need cannabis at all to interact with it at all, and it's called endocannabinoid by happenstance, I think, really, because phytocannabinoids interact with the system, but you really don't need them. You don't need your body produces all this stuff on its own. Right? What we're doing with the cannabis plant, with terpenes, flavonoids, we're in that system to create balances in people that have imbalance, people that have nerve problems, people that have autism problems, cancer problems. And that's where you're seeing these medical effects actually happen, because there is an imbalance in this person. Somebody like me or you, I feel like I'm, whatever, I'm pretty balanced, whether or not I'm that smart or whatever, my body is well enough balanced that it doesn't need an outside source to constantly be regulating it. And so that's kind of what we also need to understand is we're oversaturating our bodies. There's, you go online and look up taking a tolerance break from cannabis. It's for a reason, because after a while you quit getting the same high from the same thing, just like other substances. You're oversaturating this system. And, it's interesting how we're going to understand the real benefits of interacting with this system in the future that's not just getting high.
I mean, those are very good points. And I would like to say on the stigma that you talk about, it's always really been weird to me that it is such a stigma and people can't trust that science or won't accept that science, because even in pharmaceutical, almost everything is derived out of nature.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, we have medicines based off of freaking octopus and stuff that we've found derivatives in their skin and how they do things and how they respond to their surroundings. And now we've got medicines that help defend us against stuff in our environment. The problem is that we've come from 30, 40, 50, whatever years of stigma, of Cheech and Chong, of all this stuff. And so has ever come from that, so you kind of have to break down and go, okay, so some of these cannabis powders, some of these cannabis pills, some of these oils, they are really medicine. Man, is an edible medicine? Really? I don't know. So we do have to draw some lines somewhere in there.
No, I had this one interesting question as you were talking about the endocannabinoid system. Cannabinoid, such a tongue twister for me, but it goes back to something I had heard, that the system goes back to our evolutionary upbringing or creation, whatever the hell you want to use. Is it the oldest system of the human body?
I think that's what they're pushing to discover. That's what they're insinuating right now, because its true purpose is creating homeostasis across the other systems in the body. They're figuring it should have probably established before the rest of them to have that oversight over the rest of them. I guess it does seem like a pretty old system.
This whole talk has opened up a lot for me to look into and think about because, like, I mean, you're like an encyclopedia on
Truth.
all this because, like, I mean, you've dropped a lot of knowledge tonight, and it's been really fun. I think it's awesome that you know you got the kids thing going and everything's going good there, and I love that your son's playing soccer. I mean,
Oh man, yeah.
you can't have the three of us without soccer, so like I love that. I've loved having you on, and hopefully we can have you on
Absolutely.
again in the future. Kind of going to send you out with one last question. What would be your ideal goal for the weed industry in Oklahoma to be in the next 5 to 10 years?
Man, that's a big question to figure out. Man, I think just a lot of the things that I've talked about, the misinformation needs to stop. I don't know if we need to be a recreational state yet or not, if we need to work out the kinks on the medical side or not. I think the ultimate goal should just be safety, in all honesty. I don't know if it's a seed to sale program. I don't know exactly what it is, but there's been some issues with the products as far as, you know, getting recalls on vape cartridges and things like that. As the whole nation kind of starts to really accept cannabis, I really just hope that we can quit with this suspicious activity. This I've got to worry about every little salesman that comes through the door. Like, we just need some trust and some safety in the industry would be a good goal to get to.
I think that's great. I think you're right. I mean, there may not be a right answer, but I think you make some good points.
Dude, absolutely fantastic points. I definitely appreciate you spending this time with us tonight, Brian, because like Steven has said, we have so much other things to process in our own individual times after this, because you had just been an encyclopedia of knowledge and experience and have an in-depth hold of where this industry is, hopefully where we can take it in the future. Not we, but primarily you and, you know, the network that you have available to yourself. Definitely want to appreciate congratulate, thank you for having this.
We filled a good hour, I think, even, and thanks for the encouragement. I think, you know, that's, if anything, the encouragement's, I'll take all the help I can get in the industry, and write down all these new questions, and let's go for part 2.
Absolutely. Well, you know, with that, guys, definitely thank you for listening to this. I hope that there was some insightful, impactful, resourceful information for you to use and think about as we think, you know, what is cannabis doing here in Oklahoma as well as the rest of the world. And with that, definitely want to sign off. Bloodthirsty Salamander Experience. This will be episode 3. Thank you guys for being with us. Steven, you got anything to lead us out?
Just want to say thanks again, Brian, and Justin and Steven signing off.